This stuff here, Yerushalmi Pesachim, the article Ozer edition with Daf Yud Zayin and Alf. Made some progress on Yud Zayin and Alf yesterday, so we're actually up to the sixth line down. Chelei Rabbi Yochanan min Hada, and that in the Vilna is on Daf Tes Vav Amud Aleph, and it is the eighth line down. And Rabbi Yochanan, we had yesterday Machlokas Rav and Rabbi Yochanan about the case about an Eved who was made designated collateral. It's just apothecate for a loan, and somebody released him, either his first master or the second master, and the Eved does not have to do anything according to strict law, but because we learned that made tikkun olam, he's supposed to write a document. Who is supposed to write a document is not clear. Somebody's supposed to write a document, and the master, the other master, has to set him free. Okay, I put that backwards. He suppose we compel his master to set him free. Someone writes a document. And Shlomo Malil says the person who writes the document is not whoever was specified Tanakama, which it seems means the person who, the Eved, but rather the person who did the releasing. Okay, and that brought down Machlokas Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Rav said, "Who's doing the releasing?" So Rav said it works out whoever does releasing. This is true whether the original owner, the borrower, released him, or the new owner, the lender, released him. And Rabbi Yochanan said, no, the only person who released this habit is the original owner, the borrower, not the new owner, the lender. And then the Gemara asked a question, Rav, and said, well, it seems the question went from our Mishnah. And the Gemara had said that, no, the Shichur is different than our Mishnah. So the Shichur can undermine a collateral, as opposed to a sale, which doesn't have to undermine collateral. And now we're picking up a Rabbi Yochanan. So, Rabbi Yochanan min Hada. So the evidence Rabbi Yochanan comes from the following part of the Mishnah we quoted from Yerushalmi Gamliel. The who writes the document, says Gamliel, the person who released the slave. And it says the Meshachar writes a document on the value of an Eved. Besides the Rabbah Shei Shichur, if you're going to say that when it says he released him, it could also refer to the second master, not just like Rav said, not just the first master. Laman Kosev, who's the second master writing a document to? Harry who should see Latzmo. He calls himself the loss. He's the lender. He calls himself a loss. He's writing a document to himself. And instead the borrower writes the document because he calls the lender a loss. But why does the lender write a document? So it must be that the Meshachar in the Mishnah is the first master. And Rabbi Yochanan holds the first master to the exclusion of the second master. Now, like Rav, who says, also pertaining to the second master, no, it's only the first master. So the one now asks a question, though. Okay, this is really, the Mashbiach points out this is a separate question. Why does the Gemara says, how do we say that the Eved is not liable to pay? Say, the only reason why the Eved writes presumably, since Yerushalmi Gamliel says that the Meshachar writes the document, so therefore the Eved writes the document according to Tanakama. Okay, because so when it says because if it's a shtar domov, then Tanakama says that it's going on the Eved. Why? So the Gemara says that Yerushalmi Gamliel says doesn't have to write a document. Why not? If somebody took a field and made a collateral for a loan, and then he went and sold it. Does the lender not come and seize the field from the buyer? The buyer has a loss. Okay, that's too bad, because it was meshubad, it was already under lien to the lender prior to the sale. So here too, the average is to sustain the loss. Okay, it's true. He bought himself, who was like a field, which was under lien, to a pre-existing loan. So therefore, why does the Eved not have to write a star? He should have to, right? He should have to pay just because he's the field, right? Okay, so maybe he can't actually take the Eved anymore, but he should just be like that. He should at least be obligated to write the star. So said Pesach Rabbi Yochanan Pesach Meir Ka'era. So Rabbi Yochanan illuminated for open out an opening which illuminates like light itself. In other words, no, here he explains that here it's different. How is it different here? An Eved is not like a field. A field is always the same status. It's a monetary possession. An Eved is a whole new ball game once he's released. It's like putting Chadash's Bolakan. It's not. It can't be, since he can't be taken and compelled into slavery again. So therefore, it's as if the field doesn't exist, and therefore, of course, says Yerushalmi, he doesn't have to write a document on himself. He's a new entity. He's Eino Chazim Mishtabed. He's not, but no longer subject to the monetary, or they say the commercial parameters of this transaction. He's left the picture. Fair enough, says Gemara. Okay, but let's go back to the Tanakama. Tanakama said that he does write a star. So me'ata loichtov star al damav. So if he's left the picture, he's no longer part and parcel of the discussion here. He's not like a sadeh. So therefore, why is he writing a document? So the Gemara says, no, you're missing a point here. The Gemara says, it said Neitikun Olam, right? The Neitikun Olam, it's not just Neitikun Olam, so it's so Ben Chorin. It's also going on Kosim Shtar Dama. The Gemara doesn't say it explicitly. That's my interpretation of the Gemara. What the Gemara is saying. And that's what Elah means to say. It's better that he should say to him, it says, Tainli Masayim Zuz. I'm not sure exactly how to put the word tain, but in other words, Tainli Masayim Zuz, that the person, the lender should say, give me the 200 Zuz, which you have, right? In other words, write me an IOU. Lest him say that you're my slave. As long as going to say you're still my slave. It's an Eitz Tova Kamashmon to the Eved that he should write this document and say this IOU so that the lender will not go around saying this guy's really my slave, even though he's not really a slave. Can't be, because it was Meshuchar. It's out of the ball game. But out of this set of transactions. Nevertheless, it's an Eitz Tova Kamashlan, and again, the way I understand it, it's part of the Tikkun Olam statement in the Tanakama to write the document. So, in essence, I the way now it's really a little bit clearer to me. What happens is Eved is not necessarily going to pay this IOU, but now when the master runs after the second master, the lender runs after the marketplace, it's not going to say to him, "You're my slave," because I never got repaid on loan. Instead, he's going to say to him, "Pay me $200, pay me $200." Because I never got paid on the loan, so that's better for him. It's better for the Eved to be defaulter on a loan than to be default on obligation, than to be accused of being default on obligation and being accused of still being an Eved. Let's read the Kormeda because it's succinct. That's the Tikkun Olam. It's Toivel Eved. He should pay the value. Although here again, it says the question telling is that he's not actually paying him. He's going to keep writing him an IOU, and then the guy is going to run after him to IOU, which maybe he'll pay to get out of it, but that's not the implication of the Gemara. The second master not say you're my slave, and thus cast aspersions on any children that the Eved might have, that they are still avonim. Now we go back to Rosh Gamliel. Rosh Gamliel said that the Eved does not write the IOU; the Meshachar writes the IOU. Okay, so Gemara says Rabban Kasem Shem Nasa said, "Asher Shingam Milk Rabbi Meir." Shingam is going like Rabbi Meir. Come on, Meir koines with Vorim. So Meir, it's koines when a person makes a knas. If a person does an isser, even if, so to speak, verbal isser, or the an isser which is on paper, I should say, he makes a knas and he demands that the violator should lose, even that which is mutter he loses. That's what Meir points out here. Because b'dvarim avid yisur koyes I feel heter shabo mafsid. He loses even the heter. Ken shingam leo koyes b'dvarim. Says Meir came to avid yisur v'shichur even b'chim nam Hashem zekel shasheni. He has to pay the damage, whatever damage the second one person suffers. The evidence is sponsor. Okay, I'm not sure that Meir had to throw in the point that I feel heter shabo mafsid. Which we're about to see in the case of ribbis. The point is that even though the transaction, I guess, even though the transaction has a part which is mutter to it, right? The part which is mutter being the loan which has ribbis, as we'll see, has the principal, which is not, which is heter, besides the ribbis. Here too, the shichur eved was permitted. Because you're allowed to shachar eved. I guess that's a comparison. Anyway, let's see the comparison. The time we learned shtar shisha b'ribis. If you have you make a loan where there's interest involved, and so we find the lender. We can't even collect back his principal. Not only can't collect the interest, you can't collect the principal. The right mayor. Say, you collect the principal, you can't collect the ribbis. So here Shingam Gamliel says that the Meshachrer writes the IOU because he caused the loss. I'm really, as my modus over my mind, I'm really not sorry with the carbonate. I think the idea is that we find a person for, I don't know, we'll go back and forth here. But basic premise is we find a person for an activity he did, even though at least part of the activity was within his right. He can loan out his money. Forget about the interest. He mishachar the eved. It says everything mishachar. Nevertheless, the fact is that they did something inappropriate here, and therefore we fine you. And the fine is that in this, even though you can be mishachar the eved, you have to pay for it. Even though you could loan out the principal, you lose it because it was part and parcel of a transaction included ribbis. I see the article is also not happy with the carbonator. He says it's an interesting idea for the name of this is read. He says that basically we're learning here the din of the garmi, that that a direct cause of loss. Yeah, but that's also ribbis is not really din of the garmi. I'm not sure it makes any better. Okay, the comparison is an interesting one. It requires a little bit more analysis, but I'm not sure introducing Garmi is going to make the comparison to Ribbis any better. Okay, let's see the next part of the Gemara. As anything which a dog cannot get is considered buried under the avalanche, and you don't have to do be concerned that with that chametz. So Rabbi Yocham said ad shlosha tefachim. It has to be 3 tefachim up to, meaning below 3 tefachim. 3 tefachim below the surface, because up to 3 tefachim a dog can smell the chametz and take it up. Okay, it says the next Mishnah, Halacha Gimel. Somebody eats truma of chametz at Pesach. So the shoygeg, mishalim karen b'chaimish. If you did it inadvertently, then says carbonate shoygeg b'truma feel hazy b'chametz. It was amazing with the chametz that he was shoygeg eating the truma. He pays mishalim karen b'chaimish. And the carbonate says, "I forgot the chametz at Pesach also by no." What do you mean? What are you paying? Chametz pays us enough. Lo shamid, it's more valueless. Nevertheless, says when somebody eats truma b'shayik, says nasa kohen kodesh. There's exeris kosim. You have to give the kohen something which of similar value. Davar roilios kodesh, something which is suitable to be kodesh. Sheim misham lamos elaperos. Atashum nasim truma. You were supposed to give him, supposed to give actual the fruits which becomes truma. Hilchach lab beside domin azlinon. And so this is that has to be said. You don't go after the value, but rather after the quantity and species of the fruit. If it's been mazed, so then you're mazing the truma. So then your apartment, you're exempt from payment. This is, and it says carbon but mazed sheizid b'truma if liberty truma feels sugar b'chametz. Even if you're shayir b'chametz, you are in terms of chametz, you're patim and not tashlumin. Umid meitzim. And the Mishnah says also from paying for the wood. And the Korban explains, meitzim in truma tmeahi. If it's truma which is tameh, ein misham lo dmei eitzim shayis uila seik tachas tavshilo. They don't even pay for its value as wood, which could be used, because truma tmei can only be used for fuel underneath his cooked dish. Why? Should the meitzim of truma eno elo kashar gaslin? Unlike shogeg, where you're making restitution of fruit for the fruit you ate, which then gets the status of truma. When you ate it, but you made it, you're like any other thief. Umos mishalim fidam, you pay money based on the value. Lo fidam, not based on the volume of the species. Chametz is not, has no value. She'os ba'no, it's forbidden to benefit from it. But haflesil chaz, it's not suitable to be fuel. V'lo chazi lab media avsei, so it didn't cause any loss. So it's interesting that the Pnei Moshe and most of the Mepharshim here in Mishnayos point out that Mishnah's talking about where there was no hasra. Because there's hasra, a warning on the chametz, then he gets malchus, and ein lo k'mashalim. So therefore, that there's this payment by truma, even if he ate the chametz b'mezid, is only talking about where there was no hasra on the chametz, because then there's no malchus. If because of the malchus, ein lo k'mashalim. But the Rabbi Kiva Eger on the Mishnah says a long discussion here. Wait a minute, hold on a second. But this is chayav krisis, and according to at least several opinions in the Bavli, chayav krisis is kin the rabbi minay. Even chayav krisis shaykin we pass ketan vechizkia. They're part from tashlumin. Excuse me. And therefore here it should be part from tashlumin also. Even if it's chayav krisis, shayk again. Usually, but eating chametz on Pesach is chayav krisis. Forget about the malchus. Yes, malchus did an amazing basra, but otherwise it's chayav krisis. So why should I have to pay for the truma? So he has long discussion discussion of Ba'amor and Ramban where the chayav krisis shayk is taka pataminat tashlumin, only chayav kores b'mezid is pataminat tashlumin. But okay, it's not going to really help us here, but. Because we're talking about even amazing, but there he does bring down a sheet svara to say that since the tashluim on truma is, and I'm not sure exactly who remains at this svara in the end, but it does bring down a svara to say that since tashluim on truma is a kapara, not a regular tashlumin, right? The case where you ate b'shoyge for the truma, because it's a kapara and it's given in fruit. In kind, not in money, so therefore it's not susceptible to normal kinui rabba minay, which would mean even it could be lo k'mashalim as well. So even the Tarot portion might say it was talking about there's no asra, it could be there is asra. And that that's about but since in the case of truma we say lo k'mashalim because in the look on the chametz it's still mashalim because of the unique status of the restitution of truma. So the article does not bring down the whole conversation as far as I can see, which is a bit astonishing. But it is mashma from the Bavli, and perhaps from the end of the Yerushalmi, just before the next Mishnah, which we're not going to get to today, that our Mishnah is not going to like Tana Bechizkiah, it's going like Rabbi Yehuda ben Akana, who was played there by Krisis from Tashlumin and Kinei Rabbinai, but only if you did a b'meiz and not b'shoyeg, like I believe it's the Ramban. The Rabbi Kiva Eger quotes about that. Okay, says Gemara. It says the name of Masniso our mission she frisha matzah. He took off the truma when it's matzah now lav dafka matzah. In other words, not yet chametz. Obviously, matzah does not become chametz, but shefrisha matzah means chamsa. Before it became fermented, and then it became fermented. And it says in that scenario, the mishkachas chumas chametz and pesach the kidsha. You find chumas chametz and pesach became kodesh's truma because when he took it off, it wasn't chametz. He also says in the next carbonate, chumas chametz kana pesach. Obviously, if it took off the truma even as chametz, but he took it off before Pesach. But if you took actual chametz as truma on Pesach, it does not take effect. It says truma. Even though you're going to bring a whole chametz and Pesach is mutter ba'noah, you still can only mutter ba'noah, not achila. And it says shemar titein lo ro. You're supposed to give the Kohen something he can eat and not something which is only suitable to be fuel. Ivrish matzah al hachametz. What did you say aside matzah on the other way around? You said aside matzah on Pesach to be truma on chametz, which you possess. Okay, inappropriately, but you possess chametz. Before I get to that question, I just looked at B'chaim Kanievsky. He says that that would, if you're mafish chametz, it's on matzah doesn't work. He gives a different drasha. He says because it says by truma reshis de garcha titein lo midei deshayche bein asina. So not because of titein lo v'lo ba'ora, but not because you need something which is nesina, but not sure what it's going to do with Korme's point that there is a mandam chametz mutter ba'noah, so that would seem to be a valid in the sina. Okay, but anyway, it's not sure he does it. What Chaim would do with that? But getting back to this case over here, Hirish matzah chametz. I was here. Kol truma. Oh no, it was one other point I wanted to make, which is why I looked at Chaim Kanievsky in the first place. Obviously, bisman hazeh, when we give the truma you take off is truma, which is tamei. It's not roy for the kohen. It's only suitable lo'oro. It has to burn it. So that was my problem with korban eda. So I think that it probably is this halacha, even though we're basing it on this drasha, is the rabbanan. In other words, that you're not allowed to take off truma from chametz on matzah on Pesach, because even if it's part of this dough, it's part of the same tevel, because it is depriving the kohen of actual usage of the truma. I don't think it's halacha d'oraisa. I think it's only the rabbanan. Okay, so and the now the Gemara asks the question in the other direction. Ivrish matzah chametz. So Rabbi Zera says a kol shemash emateres t'shmayim la'achila, any truma which is not going to permit that with the remainder to eat ain't a truma. It's not valid truma. Okay, so he says also it doesn't work. Okay, so again, I think it's the Rabbanan, not the Raisa, but he brings down the Korban, brings down the Drasha. See, Mei Reishis, Gabi Truma, Yafina Minei, Mei Reishis, below Kol Reishis, so Tzorach L'Tshayir Miktzah. So you have to leave over something, which is true. Truma, there's no Truma if you're taking the entirety of Truma. Truma means Mei Reishis from the produce, not the entire produce. But here we're extrapolating for that and saying that there has to be something left over, which is mutter lachila, not just moved over, but something which is mutter. The one friend of us has the word afilu here. The carbonator takes it out. The other unfortunately leave it in. Okay, so it's easy to take it out, but it's not by much. Ifish chametz hamatzah. What about you took off chametz hamatzah? So Gemara says no, that won't work either. Since we just said chametz is not matzah, it doesn't work because there's again we don't have shirayim, we don't have shirayim, nikorin in the sense, even though there are shirayim, but it's not shemer shamutzah la'achila. So therefore, here too, So even if you take from the chametz on matzah, so therefore it's not valid. And the says like we just said, you have to share nikorin. So I feel matzah. Day number truma. So say for chametz on matzah is not truma either. So it's not necessarily comparable. Chomer makes it a kal v'chomer, but I don't really see the kal v'chomer because the Yerushalmi Pesachim. So the Ruchai Kanievsky brings down from Rashash. It's like similar to being mafresh min aptura lachiyuv. So it's not. Since the matzah is the chametz is potter, so therefore it's like doesn't work for the matzah. Although it's really it's a separate. Now that's example chametz and chametz at this point, but okay. The Gemara says that just like chametz and chametz is no good, chametz and matzah is no good either. Now it's going to be down the whole lumdish thing from the Achronim, from the Achiezer, from the Divrei Yechezkel, the Shlomo Zalman, that he says that the fascinating thing that the just like the you need the shiraim, which is mutter. The rashis also has to be like the shiraim and mutter in a similar way. Okay, I don't know exactly what to do with that. Very achronish svara. We'll stick with the Rosh Hashanah that says it's like a ptur al chiyuv. Okay, that says the Gemara further. Arbas avoyim bifnei atzman. We're talking about the chiyuv now of challah, right? You made a dough of 4 revoim, which is not yet a chiyuv challah. You need 5 revoim or chayiv challah. So you made arba revoim b'nei atzman b'chimtzon. You made 4 revoim by themselves. They became chametz. Varba revoim b'nei atzman, and you made another 4 revoim of chametz v'irvon, and now you mix them together. The article based on enlightened manuscript has before the first words arba revoim the words erase, which means you made a dough. So in any event, I'm not sure why the Yerushalmi takes the case of 4 plus 4, but which is in 4 plus 1. I'm sure somebody speaks about it, but not sure offhand. Not sure why. The main point is that it became chayv in a challah only after it became chametz. So therefore, the Gemara says, if he ate it then, if they made him has game because of ochel tevel, you're about to eat something which is chayv in challah, he didn't separate challah from it. Ain't like you don't get makus. Shum ochel chametz and pesach get the warning because ochel chametz and pesach look you do get makus. Why? Because iser chomer chal iser kal, and iser chomer takes effect over an iser kal. The ain iser kal here the iser kal of challah of tevel for challah is not chal iser chomer. Doesn't take effect and over a already pre-existing iser of chametz. So since first it became chametz and only then became chayim challah, the iser challah again the iser of tevel of challah will now apply here, and you can't get malchus for that. But about the other way around, al v'irvon, if you mix them together, so the chiyuv challah came first. In this case, since chiyuv challah came first, if they gave you, if they warned you because of ochel tevel, you do get malchus because that is a did evolve first. And if they give you asra because ochel basically you also get malchus because it's a chomer chal, it's a cow. The more severe is it does say effect on top of the Isakal, and Isakal Chal Isachomer, just not the vice versa. The Korban Ada explains the severity issue. And look, Isakal, the Krem Shishai Chal, before it came Chal Haya Isar Chametz, they became was Chametz, who is a chorus. And it also can never be permitted. The Tevel ain't Ela Misa B'Yeshmaim, Tevel is only Misa B'Yeshmaim, which is a lighter penalty than chorus. B'Yeshat the Surah can become permitted. Isakal, which is another reason why it's more light. Like we said, Isakal cannot devolve Isakal. Also, Kri, in the similar case, also Kri, Vishtachavelo, you made a Kri, a pile of wheat, and you bowed down it. Umircho, and then you smooth the pile, which makes the Chayim and Truma. So, Kormei points out, also Kri, Vishtachavelo, Yunasim, Shum, Akum, V'dafka Kri. It has to be already a pile of grain. But if you bow down to it by and it's mechuva karka, it does become also for a regular person. It only becomes also used as a korban, but not for a commoner. So so here the chiyuv of what is the Isra Avodah Zarah came before the chiyuv of truma, right? And Mircho is, as Kormei says, Sha'oz the Chai b'Truma, Shkoyim Simrech Potter B'Truma, for the Miruach here, Potter from Truma. So then, then he waited. Okay, so there's a double Isser, the Isser of Avodah Zarah, and the Isser of Tevel for Truma. The article is down, the Isser of Avodah Zarah is Savi Tevel Beisecha, or the Rambam in Hilchos says Leidbak biyadcha me'uma min acherim. Okay, so the Mora says imiso mishuma ochel tevel ain't a loke. If they gave you they warn you because of ochel tevel, you don't get malchus. And the mishum ochel akum, you got the warning because of ochel akum like Isur Chamor, Chal Isur Kal. Bein Isur Kal, Kal Isur Chamor. So the Isur Chamor, as Korban says, Ein Loka Shemitchil Nes Mishum Akum Shisur Chamor Shcheva Misa B'dei Shamayim, because V'Avodah Zarah Chai Misa B'dei Shamayim. Bein Isur Teva Kal Shemislas B'dei Shamayim, Chal of and the Isur Teva Kal doesn't devolve upon the Isur. Now this Yerushalmi is a clear, amazing Yerushalmi, because the Isser of eating Avodah Zarah is at best alive. It's not. There's no Chiv curse for eating Avodah Zarah. There's no Chiv Misa for eating Avodah Zarah. Chiv Misa is for the worshiping Avodah Zarah, right? But nevertheless, Yerushalmi is saying, again, it's an amazing thing. Yerushalmi is saying that the Ochel Akum, even though the Isser on Achila is only allowed because it emerges from an Isser on which there's Misa B'dei Adam, so everyone's going to be more Chomer. And the Isser of the Tevel, even though eating Tevel is a Misa B'dei Shamayim, right? The eating itself is a Misa B'dei Shamayim. That is kind of often. So, Pelitic Yerushalmi, amazing Yerushalmi. Let's read inside again. As I started middle to express my astonishment. So Asakri Bishtachvil Mircho Chaka Achol Hitchobel Mishum Ochel Tevel Ain't a Loke. Shochel Akum Loke. Why? Because Isser Chomer is Chal Isser Kal, but Isser Kal of Tevel Chal and Isser Chomer of Avodah Zarah. Avim Mircho, but first in Marech, it's a Chai ben Shuma first. But Chai Shtavel and then he bowed down. They Mislo Mishum Ochel Tevel Loke. If they warn you on account of Ochel Tevel, you get Malchus. And because that was the first one, and also Mishum Akum because of eating Avodah Zarah Loke, right? Because Isser Chomer of eating Avodah Zarah is Chal Isser Kal, and main Isser Kal Chal Isser Chomer. But since Isser Kal here came first, so therefore, of course, they can also give you Asura on account of eating the tevel from which Shum is not taken, and you get Malchus for it. Okay, now I'm going to ask a very basic question in our Mishnah. Going by Rebun Barchia Boy Chumas Chometz and Pesach. Somebody it's Chumas of Chometz on Pesach. But me Mishalim, who's he paying? Right? He is normally when you're eating truma where you're belongs to a Kohen, right? But it says Kormeda Mishalim Barley Imhu Mishalim also Kohen Shoyes that Chumas Chometz Shalo. So you pay that Kohen to whom the Chumas Chometz belonged, or the Mechol Kohen Kishirtza, or maybe you can pay any Kohen he wants. The Lo Gazel also Kohen Lo Mide, because he didn't take anything with Kohen. So Shari also Banoah. So it's also Banoah. Inami, or else we buy him a fish la'atzma. Maybe he can just separate for themselves, not give it to any Kohen. Umochel Kohen, let him sell Kohen. Adam Shalom and charge money for it. Or the Mishalim Kohen does he have to pay the Kohen? So the question is, what exactly payment is? You know, normally you give to the Kohen to whom the Truma belong. It didn't belong to anybody. So therefore, even though it belonged to the Kohen, it wasn't his. He had no bias in it. So therefore, we're going to pay. Okay, even though we're in the middle of a sugya about it, we've gone far enough for today, and it's the end of the Amud, so we'll stop here.